Okie dokie. So this car is effectively done. It's in the shakedown stage now, but before I start putting the fender on and the bumper and the headlights and committing everything and covering all the stuff up, gotta make a video detailing everything that happened, where everything is, so on and so forth. So just a whole lot of talking. But if you want to know how to replicate this or do this, or if you're just curious how it was executed, this is it. So for starters, the request for this was to make a car that was better than my own car aesthetically, and personally I feel like I executed on that, because I look at this and I see qualities and things, and I did things that I want to do in my own car but just haven't, you know, for whatever reason. So let's start with the obvious, the wire tuck. So there are no wires, it's all gone. This isn't a wire, this is the hood release. So routing of the hood release, it went through that rib there, that's already a pass through, and then on this side of the rib it's like this, but then it blocks itself off. So if you drill a hole, I want to say about a 1/4 inch, I think is a 1/4 inch hole is what it is, you can actually pass the hood release through and run it this path, and then it reaches perfectly to the hood latch with slack, mind you. So much cleaner way of routing the hood release than the normal way, which is in the way. And then in that, it's also sleeved, and then the wire for the AC compressor goes through here, and it's also tucked inside of this, and then it goes through a hole right there that's already there. There's a little slit cut in the sleeve, which brings us to the wire tuck as to where everything was put. So the fuse boxes live here behind the oil cooler now. They don't rest on anything, it's just there's a gap between them and the oil cooler. They don't touch. This is an oil line, and this is all the wiring here. So we have our heavy gauge wires, alternator, starter, and battery, which the battery's in the trunk, we'll go over that. But we have our alternator, starter, and battery, and then they run under the fender. So this area here in general is kind of sharp, so there are some edges that you have to take a Dremel and round off corners and take off sharp spots and so on and so forth, so it doesn't eat into the wires. So this is all 4 gauge straight copper wire running from the fuse boxes to their associated parts, and the fuse boxes themselves are mounted like that. I don't know if I'll be able to show the bracketry, but I will try. So there's a lot of holes and things down there, and I just reused a lot of them, or repurposed them I should say. So the fuse boxes, that one can, but this one can't. It can't exactly be serviced easily, but it's fine because there's nothing in there or there that really needs to be accessed at all. So it's fine. And if you have fuses that are popping in there, or relays that are failing in there, which I've never seen, but if you have that, then you have bigger problems, and the location of the fuse box is not one of them. So in here, fender liner's off right now. In here, turn the wheel, we have all of the wire stuff. So on camera it looks a little messy, but in real life it's actually very organized. Let's see. So we have this main harness here. This is the harness that plugs into the fuse boxes. It's been split. So if you delume it, you can trace the wires back and you'll see what makes sense. But you can actually split this up and separate the wires as you need. So it's all clamped. There were holes in here already that I just slid a bolt through, put a clamp on, and put a nut, so that it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to touch the wheel. And then with the fender liner on, it's going to live under the fender liner. And this car isn't crazy low, so it's not going to rub through wires or anything. There's no danger there. It's got the ballast for the HID kit is mounted right there. It is zip tied to the car itself, so that's not going anywhere. There is a mount point here that holds the fuse box. So it's a U-shaped bracket that goes onto the fuse box, and can't really show it, but you can see some of it there. So it goes, so where the battery terminal would normally be on the small fuse box, you take that out and you can actually punch a hole and put a piece of mounting hardware through there without hurting anything, and you know, attach this bracket. So the fuse box is not going anywhere, and then you swing it up, it goes there, and then it gives you also a mounting point for the ballast. So that's there, and there's a bunch of other stuff in here, but you see it's all organized, it's all clamped, it's all secured, it's all somewhere. And then the headlight motor, in reality, you don't need to access this. And to keep from having to cut the carbon cover, I just took the red cap off of the motor, and it just clears. So yeah, you don't have to poke a hole in these very expensive and very nice covers. So moving on, the wires are neat, they're organized, they're all next to each other very cleanly, they don't overlap or twist or do any of that kind of stuff. They're all secured everywhere they can be secured, all along here, and the fender does fit over this, even though it is higher than the frame part. The fender fits very cleanly over top of this without hurting anything. Then we come back here, then we have our bundle of wires. So this was already done by somebody else, I don't know. This was how the car was when it got here, but this type of connector here and here were already here, and they had some wires running to them. I want to say it's AC and some other stuff, but anyway, I just kept it and left them in there and just mounted them how I wanted to mount them. Then we have our map sensor harness, which has been modified for the 99 cluster, which has the boost gauge in it. We have our relay here for the coil harness, which coil harness runs in here. This wire here runs to the fuse box. And all the unused plugs, the bridge, or the plug that goes into the igniter, so on and so forth, all of that is stuffed right here inside the chassis. So there's a bunch of dead plugs and a lot of other random items in here. And they're all just stuffed in there because they're unused, and that's just where they go. Then here for this plug, this is where our battery wire comes through, and I don't remember what this one was for, but whatever it was is important. Oh, this is the wire that goes to the cluster for the map sensor, or for the boost gauge in the cluster. So poke a hole through here. This is an unused grommet in the fender well, so now it is used. So we just poke a hole and boom, there's that. And then all the other wires and things go from the fender well to the engine bay through this hole here, which is already there from factory. We just routed everything right through there, which then comes out here. So coils are mounted there. Of course, the plugs are on the bottom. So as soon as they come out from that hole, boom, 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 they all plug in there, and you don't see them. And then down there, using existing mount holes, is, I guess you can say, the charge harness. So in that harness there, you have your starter and your alternator wiring. So that's your heavy wire from here, the 4 gauge, this plug here, and then down to your starter. That plug is also, it also runs right down. But the way it's mounted and the way it's tucked away, you know, you can't see it. So you know, you can't see it. It's down there. If you really look, you can see it, but it's just not readily apparent. Then for the engine harness, there was only but so much that could be done with it. So this is a factory harness. It's been reconfigured, cleaned up, so on and so forth. The owner of this car wanted to keep the sequential. So the harness has all the sequential stuff in it, but it's been rerouted. So it's a set of Mac valves instead of the stock solenoids, so that we could tuck them here, and you'll see what the result of that is. But got this 6-pin connector. One is a ground, a shared ground among all of them, and the rest are the individual solenoids, which are color-coded to match the wire color on here. So for troubleshooting purposes, tracing purposes, for serviceability purposes in the future if ever need be, that's how you can trace them. And the factory harness, of course, has been modified to have the other end of this plug, this Deutsch connector, built into it, and it lives right in there. And then, you know, with these plugged in, you get your whole solenoid assembly. The vacuum diagram I don't want to go over. We're just not going to talk about this. Then the rest of the wiring, same thing. It all lives in there or is routed through here. And then we did a tucked AC setup, which we'll talk about here afterwards. at the end. So our airbag wiring is still present because he does have an airbag car. With the HID kit he has, he doesn't need the second plug. It just runs into the ballast. And everything else is just pretty much routed the way it's supposed to. Crash sensors are in place, all three of them. And then the fan wiring and the front fuse box, of course, with the Gretty V mount, that's where that goes. But that is essentially the wire tuck. And then if you look at the top of the motor, which that statement is why we did it, you can look at the top of the motor. So we have our ground 1 and 2 for the coils, grounded to their associated housing for rotor 1 and rotor 2. And then the wiring for the alternator is tucked right up against the back side of the front iron so that it doesn't go over top of the motor. It looks like it's not even there. And then the wire harness itself is tucked right up onto the rails. So it was opened up. Each plug is basically the specific length of where it needs to go. So unlike typical harnesses, when you buy them, all the plugs are just these crazy lengths. And after you plug them in, you have these loops of wire all over the place and it's just like dead length. Didn't do that. The harness is the exact length, I guess you can say, that it could be to go where it needs to go. Fuel system, we did a parallel fuel system. So each rail gets its own feed, and then they have a common return, of course. It's all -6. So the factory 5/16 line have been converted over to AN using compression fittings. And then we made everything the way we made it. So nice clean setup there for the fuel lines. It's very nice. Automotive fuel pressure regulator, of course, with the gauge. We used our ABS delete kit, FDA ABS delete kit, for this setup here, along with our tucked clutch line. So that's why there's nothing up along the firewall there. Our tuck clutch line actually routes it, instead of up over the booster, it goes around and down under the booster. That gives you a much cleaner, much more satisfying setup there, so you don't got to see a bunch of stuff. He has gauges, oil filter, oil pressure, oil temp, and AFR. So for oil pressure and temp, we use the bonsai pedestal and replace the factory one altogether instead of using any other method. So nice gold pedestal in there. It's very, very presentable. Like it a lot. That's on there. And then we made all custom oil lines using twin 19-row coolers. So we'll see more of that underneath when we go underneath. He opted to keep the heater lines. And of course, like I said, we have tucked AC. We'll get to that though. But he opted to keep the heater lines. So everything in here that's a color has been powder coated with the exception of the motor. And the alternator, this is just a loaner for right now. The one that we had all dressed up is being troubleshot. I don't think it failed, but we're dealing with it and it'll go back in. All the hardware is from Downstar. He wanted to do really nice fancy hardware everywhere. All the gold wrap is from DEI. These little accents here, that's paintbrush. All of it. So, you know, kudos to attention to detail. Basically everything has been replaced, refreshed, or something or other. But nothing has been untouched in this engine. Every single item in here attention was given to. So even the brake booster, as you can see, is gloss black. This wasn't powder coated, of course, you can't do that, but it was painted. There's a lot of JP3 products in here. Throttle cable, their the brake booster, vacuum line. We got their cooling shroud, their Gretty V mount, AC condenser mount to use the RX-8 condenser. Sure, there's some other stuff here. I can't think of it right now. For the AC, we did all custom AC lines, so obviously a one-off kit. Very difficult. So we did custom AC lines that are as tucked as they can be. And these kits are not easy to make because each one is very unique to the car that it's on. So that's what we got here. RX-8 compressor, using the JP3 RX-8 compressor adapter mount. So that's on there. Once we raise the car up, you'll see how the lines are routed and how everything is done. Rack bushings replaced, of course. Injectors, we're using 1050 and 1700. with radium rails. No pulsation dampener because it's not needed. Fast reacting Triumph sensor, open element air temp sensor. We have the 3-bar mounted over here under the brake booster. Right there, just like that, using an unused mount point. And it lives just right there. And then the vacuum line runs up back into the factory location. Greddy elbow, of course, it all comes with the whole Greddy V-mount kit. Their intakes, so on and so forth. B&R Stage 3 twins. These were bought quite some time ago, so I don't know if this version of the B&Rs are still available. It feels like they come out with a new version like every so often or something. Moroso single port catch can, because with the twin configuration, the typical second port that you would use for the catch can is being used by the oil return of the twins, of course. So we modified the stock plastic oil neck with a 10AN bulkhead fitting, and then we have one line running from there all the way around to the catch can, which is mounted on a mount that we made that is good enough to hold this where it needs to be. And then of course our AC lines route around it. So like I said, these are custom lines. They only exist on this car in this configuration. And honestly, I think they came out excellent. They are, I think it's a very clean setup. They're clamped to each other using factory mount points, and then we made this little piece of aluminum here so that it's like a bridge, so that both lines can be attached to each other. And then there is a connection point here, so for whatever reason these lines need to come out, they can come out here. And then this portion of the AC system lives in the car forever. There's no reason to deal with this or touch this or do anything with it. So they do come out here, which is with all the vacuum lines for the solenoid setup and a small portion of the harness that comes through for the solenoids to plug into. It is very crowded in this area, but it is safe. Everything in here is safe. Nothing is, there's no chafing points. There's nothing interferes, essentially. Some stuff touches, but it's all safe. So everything in there is fine. But the AC lines come out. They're covered up with this, whatever this is, but they're wrapped in there in some of the more critical locations, like where it comes out and so on and so forth. The fender liner itself, so this is typically the exhaust for the oil cooler. The air would come in, it goes in through here, and then it comes out, of course, the duct that's on the fender. Well, in the spirit of custom parts, we had to modify the hell out of it. So cut this huge chunk out of it so that the AC line can take priority, because without that it wasn't good. It was interfering. So this is as tucked as this line can get and still exist under the fender. Very difficult to make this entire piece. So this is one long line from here all the way down to here, which is where they connect in this area where you can see the other HID ballast, which is not going anywhere. It's very secure right where it's at. And then these two lines here, also where they exist. So there's also breakaways in here. The pressure sensor is in there. So for whatever reason the lines need to be serviced, this section stays in the car, and this is accessible, of course, with the fender installed and all that kind of stuff. So the lines that go from here into the engine bay area, those can come out with no problem, but these will remain. And then of course the oil cooler is there, the headlight, and everything is nice and kosher. Our oil lines are routed. It's all push lock, Parker push lock, 5/8 or 10 AN, and that's all good there. The carbon covers, these are from FD Wheel Covers in Carbon, is what very specific name on Instagram, but also on RX-7 Club. You can get yourself a set of those. He also makes them in carbon. These FDA strut toppers. It's a sheet of aluminum that goes right over top, and it's a dress-up part. That's really all it is. And then we got the nice hardware on top of it, so it adds a little touch, you know, to the strut towers there. We're using Bonsai's pulley set. The gold, the green, the black, it all goes together. And of course, Mazda Speed oil cap, which of course he already had there. The throttle body was fully disassembled, sent off to powder coat, then reassembled. The shaft seals on the inside here were all replaced, so that's good there. What else? Yeah, our ABS deletes, nice clean tucked situation there. You can't see it at all, other than the one line there which shoots down and also comes out through there and goes to the fender. Yeah, now we can go up. Underneath, starting from the front, of course, Grady V-mount, and the Grady V-mount brackets mounts it beautifully. Oil cooler, yeah, you can see a little bit more of the way that the fuse boxes are mounted and all the wiring. Thermostat we mounted here using a Mocal thermostat. I'm not a fan of this, but it's what he had and it does work, so no need to replace it for no reason. Made all the lines, as I said, push lock. The AC line here, this one goes to the condenser and it routes through the side. Had to notch out the shield to make space for that, and there's a breakaway here, so that's serviceable. Then we have our power steering line, which the Grady V-mount kit comes with a right-hand drive compatible one. For left-hand drive, you have to do something else. So we have this line made, and we can produce more of these, but something we didn't consider when we made it was that his sway bar mounts are not stock. So I don't know how compatible this is with the stock sway bar mount. So, because when it comes down on this side, it droops down, and I don't think that'll work. So we'll try again when we get a stock one and see how well that works. Fan extension plugs that come with the V-mount kit. We did this mount here. So this little piece, this thing here comes with the V-mount kit. It's supposed to hold an AC line, I think, actually, but we repurposed it for the power steering line, put a huge spacer in the middle and a long bolt and a big washer, so now the power steering line is secured, and then a zip tied on this end, which is fine. The other AC line is here. It's routed underneath the support bar. Same thing, we ran a long bolt right through the middle here, put some spacers on it, a nut and a clamp, and now the AC line is secured there. Oh shit. Yeah. So, yeah, under the center bracket, then it comes around here, and then we use a mount point here to hold it there, and then it comes around, boom, like that. And then this is the other line here, the skinny one. This is custom bent, you can say that. Pressure sensor's there. It wraps around, goes up through here, where it ultimately ends up right there on the front of the thing, of the condenser. So same thing with this line here. There's a brake right above it, so if it has to be removed for whatever reason, it's fine. But at the same time, if you just take this bolt out, it could also be lifted off if for whatever reason it needs to be serviced. So definitely had to consider that. Grady drain plug, Bonsai oil pan brace, Bonsai motor mounts. Of course, I believe it's a Grady downpipe. It's a true 3-inch downpipe. And based on the shape and everything, pretty sure it's a Grady. It's not labeled and we don't know, we didn't buy it new, we got it used, but I think it's a Grady. We added the bung here, 18 inches downstream, and call it 11 o'clock. Sensors there. Got the bell housing powder coated, so we pulled this off and cleaned it, sensed it off, got it powder coated inside and out, so it's beautiful. Reused his clutch, ACT, HD, SS, blah blah blah. ACT flywheel, and then of course the counterweight. He already had this mid pipe, so we went ahead and just reused it. It's pretty nice. And then we bought a brand new RE dolphin tail. This was one of the very specific requests that he had, so here it is. Single tip dolphin tail, huge canister, very nice. It's all in the car. Very clean back here. We didn't really do anything back here. We did install the Olins some years ago, so he's got those. What else is under here? You can see part of the ABS delete kit on the left side, how it just comes straight through and goes straight to the hard line, or not the hard line, the soft line that goes to the caliper. Same on the other side here. You can see the path it takes. Nice tucked up into the car, nice and clean. Yep, raised red plug. B&R twins. The way that they came out of the box is the way we use them. They come with some hardware, which we used. It's very nice hardware. The preload and everything is set already on the actuators, so we just left that, let it be. And that's all good there. And then of course we did our vacuum setup the way that it was done. Let's see here. The piece here that goes right above the downpipe, we got that powder coated as well because it is somewhat visible from the top of the engine bay. So it's black, it's very nice. And then for heat management, for the vacuum lines and for the wires and things that go right over top of the downpipe, we use the DEI gold sheath, which is very nice. And it's Velcro, so you can just wrap it around and stick it on the thing, and it's like this industrial strength Velcro. So that's not coming apart. That's gonna protect that forever. Oil pan is completely dry, as it will remain. This car's been running, of course, for some time. And by some time, I mean a couple weeks or so. But completely dry, as it will remain. There is a way to seal oil pans so that they don't leak. They don't have to leak, although a lot do, but they don't have to. So keep that in mind. Let's see here. You can see the oil line coming off the front cover there. Just stick the fitting in, attach the line, that's the whole thing. These fittings do not magically loosen themselves. That's not a thing. So no concern. It is exactly how it should be. And yeah, so it's not crowded. It's neat, orderly. Everything has a home. Everything's mounted. It's all the way it should be underneath here. And yes, the washer bottle was deleted because it's not needed at all. Unless it is in your state. If you have an inspection that requires it, whatever, keep it. But it's not needed for him in his state, Florida. So we removed it and we repurposed the space for wire tuck activities. So there's the inside of the mouth there. Got the brackets on it. We did not use the little shield that's supposed to go here. Forget what the instructions said to do about it, but it was not applicable, so we didn't use it. And now the intakes are they're just right there, and they're going to do their thing. Likely going to see ambient air temps for the duration. And then, of course, the front fuse box is mounted exactly where Reddy said to put it, just like that. And we have our oil lines and some wiring routed inside of this mount bracket. The blocks that are normally in there, we drilled out the rivets because where they would normally be, there was no space to route anything. So went ahead and took those out, and yeah, everything is now mounted exactly where it should be, or where we want it, I should say. And then this sway bar was already on here already. Some more detail of how we did the tuck. This is his headlight relay here. It's just zip tied around the headlight motor, so it doesn't do anything. It's just right there around the rubber boot. This is the bracket for the thermostat. How that mounts. So it goes forward, and then we use an existing mount point and a huge washer to hold that there. This is going nowhere. And this is all mangled because we had to bend it to get the old one out, which had some leaking issues. It just wouldn't seal, and put the new one in, but it's fine. It's bent back. It's not going nowhere. So it's nice and secure. Lines go this way. Separated them with zip ties like so. And then of course they just go over top. And then they go where they go, to the oil cooler. Just like that. For the ignition, you can see how we did the coil wires, how they're positioned. Very neatly. We use the little separators to keep them nice and neat. And then for our grounding, off of the center iron, we have this fat 0-gauge wire that goes right here to the frame rail. I don't remember what was mounted here before, but there are some nut certs that were already in the frame, and we just use those as the grounding point. So nice big 0-gauge right here, and then we have a 4-gauge coming off the back of the intake manifold like stock, and then it goes to the firewall where this heat shield mounts up there. So it's shared there, so it's not up on top of the thing like normal, I guess you can say. And then the stock fuel lines here, he already didn't have the evap line up here. I don't know where it is or how it's set up, but it already wasn't there. And cut them, converted them with compression fittings, so that it is 5/16 to 6 AN instead of doing it by other methods that I'm sure people are very aware of. We weren't going to do that, so we didn't do that. Oh yeah, we gotta put this back on. Yeah, there's a thing that's supposed to be right here that holds this. We took it out, and we're gonna put it back on. So that's gonna mount right there, just like this, right there through that mount point. And then we use the FDA oil metering pump delete, or oil metering pump block off plate. That's in there, billet piece with Downstar hardware holding it on, but you can't see it. But when you can see it, it's worth seeing. Put it like that.